Hey everyone, my name is Willow Quinn, and me and my classmate Sam Smith decided to interview Jamie Allen and Mr. Matt with Pike Creek Turf Incorporated, which is a leading turf grass producer based in Cook County, Georgia. That's also where I'm from. Pike Creek Turf grows and supplies premium turf varieties used across the United States as well as internationally. In our interview, we discuss how the company engages in international business, from exporting live turf grass to building long-term relationships with clients overseas. Just a disclaimer though, technical difficulties are up the frickin' wazoo, so don't expect this to be perfect.
So what can you tell me about your business and what motivated you to expand in international markets?
We've been in this, you asked a question on here about the length of time also, and I think we've been in it just under 20 years in international sales of turf grass. So there's a lot to that and a lot to get into it, but we decided almost 20 years ago, right at 20 years ago, to diversify into that marketplace because it went along with what we do here as a company, because we're largely golf focused. So the biggest part of our business is golf domestically. We also thought that we could compete in the international market just as well as we can in the domestic market. There's a little different look to it, of course, but we thought we could be competitive because it still boils down to a quality product and quality service. We had seen a big growth in the 90s, mid to late 90s and early 2000s in golf domestically. And so we knew that growth was also occurring, over the globe. And we also knew that we had the contacts domestically, many of which controlled a fair amount at times of the international work. And that might be an architect, or that might be somebody in development, or it might be a contractor who's doing these projects. And so we had these relationships built over a period at that time of, say, our company was 15 years plus old at that time, 15 to 20. So that's when we kind of entered this. And so all those reasons kind of led us to getting into international grassing or providing for international projects. I'd say in the last few years, we've operated in probably between 20 and 30 countries. Now, overall in the history of our company, there's no way to really know what that number is, because some are repeat countries that have repeat business, maybe not year to year, but sometimes year to year or every few years. And there's more projects associated with them and opportunities there than there are in some. So, but in any given year, we operate in a number of countries, and it varies due to where the international market stands on, say, turf grass need, and that goes directly hand in hand with development in those countries, and where are they allowing resources to go, and where are people putting resources, and maybe where the government is allowing people to put projects, for instance. And so we gain market somewhere, but we might lose it somewhere else on the international side. So, and you mentioned how we decide on those markets. Well, it's really driven by where the development is and where we're positioned to target. So in other words, if we're dealing with a third party, for instance, they might be targeting certain areas heavier than others because they have a presence there. And then we might not target other areas ourselves, or we might. But a lot of what we said, I think I told you maybe yesterday or whatever day it was, a lot of our business now currently goes through a couple of third-party companies that have more of an international presence than we do. We don't send anybody internationally out of here. And so I think the bulk of what we do internationally might be due to what we do domestically.
When we go to conferences and trade shows, the U.S. is the leader, I would say, in all of that in the turf industry for sure. So that's where we meet a lot of the potential clients from abroad. And the biggest thing, and I know one of the questions later is about culture, but seeing them face to face, because you're talking about rather large transactions that they never get to see the product before they actually receive it. So if you can meet them face to face or have that just kind of the word of mouth that you can be trusted, is a really kind of more strategic for us than current social media type marketing, I would say. because some of the projects, they get as large, it takes a lot of trust on both ends to make it happen. So for me, dealing on the day-to-day side of it, the advantages are if I use a third party to help with the exporting services, the biggest thing is the paperwork, because not every country uses the exact same shipping codes for plants, at least. Sometimes they classify them a little bit different. And if you if you label on the paperwork one thing wrong, sometimes they'll reject it. That's the biggest thing. And then, of course, flight schedules, shipping schedules with container ships, all of that. Since they do it and they ship in a much broader area than we typically go, if something goes wrong with the flight, they know exactly what airline can get it from A to B the quickest. They'll know how to shuttle the cargo to another cold storage facility. To whereas if something went wrong and that grass is sitting in Turkey, for instance, I got no clue who to call, right? I mean, I've no idea, but they'll know exactly how to store it so it doesn't perish. Of course, the disadvantage of that is until you learn who is good and who is not good at their job, it can make our life kind of scary and a nightmare, right? Because we have worked with some not so good third-party agencies in the past. And of course, with different time zones and all that, if something does go wrong and you're going through a third party, it could be 12, 14, 18 hours before you even realize it, just depending on what agency you're using, where they're located, and of course what time it is there versus here. So all in all, I say anytime you can, unless it is truly 100% of your business of shipping international, I would recommend a third party. It just makes my life a whole lot easier for sure. And then I think the next question was advantages and disadvantages of direct shipping. And it's kind of the same thing. I mean, an advantage, if I book all the freight, I know what airlines, because sometimes it is totally worth it to pay more money, even though I know a certain airline is going to cost more to get it there. The reliability of it makes it worth it, whereas a third party may go with a cheaper option, right? So, but for me, with a live plan, a perishable product, I want the peace of mind in the reliability of the carrier. And then also, of course, if I do it direct, we don't have to pay any fees. So especially if you're on a smaller project and you're not paying a fee, you can be a little bit more competitive versus what few competitors we do have. And then, of course, the disadvantage is obviously if you're not familiar with the receiving country, the biggest thing there would be like a language barrier. If something goes wrong or they have a question, trying to communicate that or trying to understand what they're actually asking, because I found sometimes they're asking a common thing, but the way they might word it is going to be different and kind of confusing. So that would kind of fall under the disadvantage, or the biggest disadvantage would probably be the language barrier on all the paperwork.
And I wrote a few things down as well about those questions, and there's some overlap in it, I'm sure, but I thought about the aspect on the advantage on the first question of our company would have a greater international presence where we're direct, because if we're dealing with a third party, they've got the ear of the customer and they've got maybe that relationship. So maybe there's a lack of a relationship building component if we're that'd be a disadvantage of us working with somebody in a third party look is if we didn't have that relationship. So if we're dealing with a third party, we don't have the relationship directly. The advantage of dealing with them directly would be that we do have it. We do have more of that relationship that we build over time. You know, they are dealing with the obstacles, and Matt mentioned some of that, if we're dealing with a third party. That being the third party, where we're not dealing with obstacles out there that you have to jump through and all the requirements. They take a lot of that and deal with it directly if we're sending the grass through a third party.